Welcome to the deep dive. Ever wonder how your morning coffee beans from Colombia or, your smartphone designed in California and assembled somewhere like Vietnam actually make their way to you?
Hmm,
That's the fascinating world of international business transactions crisscrossing borders, and it's the core of what we're unpacking today.
exactly. Globalization has really woven this, well, complex web of interconnected economies. It makes international business not just a field of study, but a fundamental reality for nearly every business, big or small.
Right. And to help us navigate this intricate landscape, we're diving deep into excerpts from International Business Management for BBA students in Thailand. Now, okay, the title's specific, but the underlying principles, they're pretty universally applicable if you're trying to understand how the global marketplace operates.
Absolutely. The core concepts hold true across the board.
So our mission today, to extract the most crucial insights, maybe those surprising nuggets of knowledge that will give you a clear, digestible understanding of international business management without feeling like, you've just read a textbook.
Sounds like a plan? Where should we start?
Okay, let's get started. What exactly is international business and why should it be on your radar?
Well, at its heart, international business simply involves business transactions that span across country borders. Pretty straightforward, right?
Seems so.
The term international obviously highlights this cross-border nature involving interactions between multiple nations. And business, well, in its fundamental sense, it's about making, buying, selling goods, or providing services for money.
Okay.
But the key insight here, I think, is that these aren't isolated events. They're part of this huge interconnected global system.
Right, so it's not just one type of activity, is it? It feels like it covers a whole range of business functions, just on a global scale.
Precisely. International business is really multifaceted. It encompasses everything from, say, how you market a product in a completely different cultural context to managing finances across fluctuating exchange rates, handling global supply chains, navigating international trade regulations, and even, formulating business strategies that account for these diverse global landscapes. That's really holistic view of business.
And these global businesses, they're not operating in a vacuum, right?
Right.
There's a whole host of external factors that must come into play.
Absolutely. Success in international business requires understanding and adapting to all sorts of different environments. You've got the economic climate of different nations,
Okay.
their political and legal frameworks, the unique sociocultural nuances, which we'll definitely get into,
Right.
the level of technological advancement, and increasingly ecological considerations too. And these factors aren't static. They're constantly shifting and interacting.
It sounds like professionals in this field need to wear many hats, drawing on knowledge from a surprisingly wide range of areas.
They certainly do. It's inherently interdisciplinary. You're pulling insights from anthropology to understand cultural dynamics, economics for market behaviors, geography for logistics planning, history for context, political science for navigating regulations, sociology for societal trends, even environmental studies for sustainable practices. This cross-disciplinary nature is what makes it so rich and, well, complex.
So what's the core motivation then? Why do businesses actually go global in the first place? It can't just be for the adventure.
No, the drivers are quite compelling, really. Firstly, accessing larger global markets. That presents significant opportunities for growth, more revenue.
Makes sense.
Secondly, many international ventures are mutually beneficial. They create value for everyone involved. Thirdly, companies often need resources, raw materials, maybe specialized labor, unique technologies that just aren't available at home.
Okay.
And finally, they might be drawn to, say, better competitive conditions or emerging market opportunities abroad. The key insight. Internationalization is often a strategic imperative for long-term success.
And this whole push towards global operations, it's all part of this bigger thing we keep hearing about. Globalization. What's the core idea there?
Globalization is essentially the process of creating and expanding economic markets and business organizations on a worldwide scale. It's characterized by these increasingly interconnected transnational networks for production, distribution, marketing.
Right.
Think of it as the world becoming a more integrated economic entity.
So it's like national economies are becoming less and less isolated.
Precisely. Advancements in transportation, telecommunications, distribution networks, banking, financial services, plus the gradual reduction of trade and investment barriers. All these things are kind of flattening the world. Geographical distance is becoming less of a barrier.
That term flattening.
Yeah, it really captures how these technological and regulatory shifts are speeding up global interconnectedness. That's the core insight.
And this flattening has some pretty significant implications for countries themselves, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. In this more interconnected world, nations increasingly need to integrate into the global economy to foster prosperity. Isolationism just becomes less viable.
Right.
To thrive and manage competition effectively, nations need to actively engage in three key areas: shaping global rules, think trade agreements, international law, actively participating in economic activities, leveraging their strengths globally, and responsibly utilizing global resources, ensuring sustainable access and management. The key takeaway: in a flattened world, strategic global engagement is paramount for national success.
Okay, we've laid the groundwork with the what and the why of international business. Now let's tackle something that seems incredibly nuanced and crucial: navigating cultural differences.
Absolutely critical. As international trade flourishes, so does the interaction between people from vastly different cultural backgrounds. It's just not enough anymore to have a better product or a lower price. Cultural factors profoundly influence whether international business efforts succeed or fail. The core insight here is that cultural intelligence is a vital competitive advantage.
So culture isn't just about surface-level things like customs and etiquette. It's deeper.
So much, much deeper.
Right.
Culture fundamentally shapes our behavior, how we talk, our nonverbal cues. It forms the very foundation of our beliefs, our values, our assumptions about the world. It's the lens through which we interpret basically all human interactions.
Wow.
So the key takeaway is that culture dictates our underlying expectations.
And cultures aren't static either, are they? They must evolve.
Precisely. Culture is dynamic. It's constantly evolving in response to all sorts of societal forces, technology, social movements, you name it.
Yep.
This means that the cultural differences between countries are also always shifting. What was a huge barrier maybe a generation ago might be less pronounced today, and new differences can emerge. So the core insight is cultural understanding needs ongoing learning and adaptation.
This sounds like it can create real challenges when you're trying to do business, especially when money's involved.
You're spot on. Differences in perception, rooted in these cultural values, can create significant obstacles. Think financial negotiations, marketing campaigns, even just daily business interactions. Our sources give an example. Arab business people, often preferring to deal with others of similar racial and linguistic backgrounds. It just underscores how deep these cultural preferences can run in business. The key takeaway: cultural biases can significantly impact business outcomes.
That example really drives the point home. It makes you wonder just how pervasive the influence of culture is on things like, say, legal systems or economic policies.
That's a really profound question. To what extent does culture shape a nation's laws, its standard operating procedures, its economic policies, public sentiment, ultimately people's behavior? It's complex, no easy answers. And we can't forget the powerful role of mass media and entertainment in shaping our perceptions and sometimes misperceptions of other cultures. The core insight: culture is like a foundational layer influencing all these societal structures and norms.
So how can businesses even begin to navigate this incredibly intricate web of cultural differences effectively? Where do you start?
The starting point is cultivating a deep understanding of difference itself. Every cultural background is unique, its own history, values, communication styles.
Right.
Effective cross-cultural communication hinges on recognizing and respecting this uniqueness and then adapting your approach accordingly. It's about both, cognitive understanding, knowing what the differences are, and behavioral flexibility, knowing how to act appropriately. The key takeaway: cultural competence requires both knowledge and adaptability.
Our sources specifically mention Bangkok as a place with a lot of cross-cultural interaction. Why is that significant?
Well, Bangkok, being a major global city and a hub for tourism, education, and business in Southeast Asia, it sees this constant influx of foreign students, expats, tourists, business travelers. This concentrated interaction really highlights the growing importance of a common global language, like English, in facilitating communication and commerce in such diverse places. The key insight is that globalization is just increasing this cross-cultural contact, especially in big urban centers.
It sounds like even with the best intentions, things can still easily go wrong when people from different cultures interact in a business setting. Misunderstandings seem likely.
Unfortunately, yeah, cross-cultural communication breakdowns are quite common. Misunderstandings happen frequently, even when everyone thinks they're being perfectly clear.
Right.
Assuming you're competent in cross-cultural interactions without genuine understanding and sensitivity, that can lead to costly mistakes, damaged relationships. The core insight is that effective cross-cultural communication needs continuous effort and, frankly, vigilance.
Okay, we've explored why international business happens and the crucial role of culture. Now, let's maybe pivot to the economic theories that underpin why countries even bother trading with each other in the first place. What are the foundational ideas we need to grasp?
Right. International trade isn't just, a matter of convenience. It's a fundamental driver of economic value creation. Increased trade often fosters greater competition,
Hmm.
which in turn can spark innovation, improve efficiency, and ultimately lead to maybe higher quality goods and services at potentially lower prices.
Hmm.
Historically, trade has been a huge engine of economic progress. The key insight: international trade can be a powerful catalyst for economic growth.
It seems like a common perception, though, is that every country wants to export more than it imports. Is that really the main goal driving international trade?
Well, while many nations do strive for a, let's say, favorable trade balance, the underlying reasons for trade are more nuanced, more complex than just that. In today's interconnected global economy, international trade has become increasingly vital. The sheer volume, the value of cross-border transactions, it's growing exponentially.
Yeah.
So as businesses venture into international markets, having a solid understanding of the economic principles at play becomes indispensable. The key insight is that the benefits of trade go way beyond simply maximizing exports.
So let's delve into these international trade theories.
Right.
What are some of the core frameworks we should be familiar with?
Okay. One of the earliest and maybe most intuitive is mercantilism. This view basically sees the world's wealth as finite, like a fixed pie.
Right.
So international trade becomes a zero-sum game. One nation can only gain by exporting more than it imports, grabbing a bigger slice of this fixed global wealth, often at the expense of others. The key insight of mercantilism is this emphasis on national wealth accumulation through trade surpluses.
That sounds pretty competitive, almost adversarial, actually. What are the practical implications of thinking like that?
Well, mercantilist thinking often leads governments to implement protectionist policies, restricting imports, promoting exports, trying to keep that positive balance of payments.
Mm-hmm.
Think tariffs, quotas, subsidies. But these policies can spark retaliation from other countries, potentially escalating into trade disputes, and maybe even hindering overall global economic growth. The key implication of mercantilism is the potential for trade wars and reduced global efficiency.
So what was the counter argument to this idea of nations just hoarding wealth through trade surpluses?
Classical economists, starting with Adam Smith and later David Ricardo, offered a fundamentally different view. They championed the blessings of free trade.
Mm.
Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage, in particular, was groundbreaking.
How so?
He showed that even if one country is absolutely better at producing everything more efficiently than another,
Right.
both countries can still benefit from trade. They just need to specialize in producing the goods where they have a relative advantage. The key insight here is that trade can be mutually beneficial, not a zero-sum game.
Comparative advantage. That's a really key concept. Can you break it down a bit more for us?
Sure. Think of it in terms of opportunity cost. A country has a comparative advantage in producing something if it can do so at a lower opportunity cost, meaning it has to give up less of other goods to produce it compared to another country.
Okay.
These differences in relative production efficiencies form the basis for mutually beneficial trade. Nations will find it advantageous to export goods where their comparative disadvantage is smaller relative to others. The key takeaway for businesses: identify your core strengths in relative efficiency and focus there for international trade.
So it's about specializing in what you're relatively better at, even if you could technically make other things more efficiently in absolute terms. That's interesting.
Precisely. Then we have the Heckscher-Ohlin theory, or HO theory. It offers a different explanation for trade patterns.
Okay, how does that one work?
Instead of focusing on technology differences, the HO theory suggests a country's comparative advantage comes from differences in its factor endowments, basically, how much capital and labor it has relative to other countries.
Ah, right.
The theory suggests countries with lots of capital will tend to export capital-intensive goods, while those with abundant labor will export labor-intensive goods. The key insight of the HO theory is that a nation's resource base influences its trade specialization.
And what are the core propositions that make up this Heckscher-Ohlin theory?
It rests on two main propositions. First, the factor endowment theorem. It says that the relative prices of goods in different countries are influenced by their relative factor endowments, and trade tends to reduce these price differences as factor prices start to equalize. Second, the factor price equalization theorem suggests that, under certain ideal conditions, free trading goods will eventually lead to the equalization of domestic factor prices, like wages, and the return to capital across the trading nations. The key takeaway is that trade in goods can actually affect factor prices, like wages, across countries.
That's a powerful idea. What underlying assumptions does the HO theory rely on, though? Because the real world isn't always that neat.
No, it definitely isn't. The HO theory operates under several key simplifying assumptions. First, it assumes a world with only two outputs and two homogeneous factors, capital and labor, with constant returns to scale.
Okay.
Second, it assumes all countries have the same technology, but use it in different proportions. Third, no trade barriers, no transport costs, and a zero trade balance for each country. And finally, it assumes factor prices include any monopoly profits. It's crucial to remember these are simplifying assumptions. The real world is much more complex.
All right, we've got a better handle on why countries trade. Now let's shift focus to how individual businesses actually enter these foreign markets. What are the main strategies available?
Right. When a company decides to expand internationally, it faces this crucial decision. How do we get in? This choice of market entry strategy significantly impacts the company's risk, its control, and its potential return.
Makes sense.
There are basically four main alternative strategies: exporting, contractual agreements, joint ventures, and direct investment. The key insight is that the best strategy really depends on a mix of firm-specific and market-specific factors. There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Let's start with what seems like the most straightforward option, exporting. How does that work?
Exporting is basically selling goods or services produced in one country to customers in another. It can be direct. The company sells straight to foreign buyers, maybe online, or with a sales team abroad. Or it can be indirect, selling through local intermediaries and the foreign market agents, distributors, export management companies. Indirect exporting is often a common and less risky first step, especially for smaller businesses, SMEs. The key takeaway: exporting offers a relatively low-risk way to test foreign waters.
What about contractual agreements? How do those work for market entry? Licensing and franchising, right?
Exactly. Contractual agreements involve a company granting certain rights to another entity in the foreign market for a set period. Licensing means granting a foreign company the right to use your intellectual property patents, trademarks, tech know-how for royalty payments. Franchising is granting a franchise the right to operate a business using the franchisor's whole model: branding, procedures, marketing, everything. These strategies are often attractive as initial entry modes, or maybe when domestic growth slows down. And companies might even combine different entry modes. The key insight is that contractual agreements offer market access with limited capital investment.
Then there are joint ventures. What's the structure there? Sounds like more commitment.
It is. A joint venture involves setting up a new, legally separate business entity that's jointly owned and controlled by two or more parent companies. Usually one is local to the foreign market and one or more are international.
Right.
The partners pool resources, share the risks and rewards, and typically collaborate on managing the new entity. JVs can be particularly good when entering markets with high political or economic risks, or when you really need that local expertise. The key takeaway is that joint ventures allow for risk and resource sharing.
And finally, direct investment. That sounds like the biggest commitment a company can make.
It is indeed. Direct investment means outright ownership and control of production or distribution facilities in a foreign country. You can do this either by acquiring an existing foreign company, gives you immediate market presence, or by establishing a new subsidiary from scratch, often called a greenfield investment, which gives you complete control. Direct investment usually involves the highest risk, but also offers the greatest potential for control and long-term returns. The key takeaway is that direct investment signals a long-term commitment and offers maximum control.
So a company has these different paths. What are some of the immediate things they need to figure out when deciding what to trade?
Well, the very first decision in any international trade, exporting or importing, is determining exactly what goods, services, or maybe agricultural products will be traded. The specific procedures and regulations can vary hugely depending on what you're dealing with.
Right.
It's crucial to analyze the value of each potential transaction economically. You have to look at factors like the purchasing power in the target market and definitely the transport and logistics costs. The key insight is understanding the product market fit, and the basic economic viability is absolutely paramount.
And it sounds like thorough research is essential before taking that first step into a foreign market. Can't just jump in.
Absolutely not. Comprehensive market research is vital. Whether you're an experienced international trader or a company going abroad for the first time, international markets just inherently involve higher levels of uncertainty and risk than domestic ones. So a deep understanding of the target market's dynamics, consumer preferences, competition, the regulatory environment, it's indispensable for making informed decisions. The key takeaway is that market research is the foundation of successful international market entry.
Our sources highlight the increasing popularity of joint ventures and partnerships. What's driving that trend? Seems like sharing makes sense.
It does. The growing preference for JVs and strategic partnerships is driven by several things. These collaborations let companies share the financial and operational risks of foreign expansion. Plus, you gain access to local partners' valuable market knowledge, their established distribution networks, maybe strong relationships with local stakeholders. While managing a JV has its own challenges, the benefits of pooling resources and expertise often outweigh the drawbacks, especially in complex or high-risk markets.
Like in Asia, maybe.
Exactly, particularly in many emerging Asian economies, and especially in high-tech sectors. Local partners can provide crucial insights and help navigate regulatory hurdles. JVs in these markets can sometimes even lead to successful IPOs later on. And places like Thailand, with a growing pool of well-educated graduates, become attractive for these tech collaborations. The key takeaway is that joint ventures offer a strategic advantage through shared risk and local expertise.
But it can't be all smooth sailing with joint ventures, can it? What are some of the potential pitfalls or dangers?
No, definitely not. One of the biggest risks is the potential for disagreements and, well, stalemates over crucial control and decision-making. Different organizational cultures, conflicting strategies, power imbalances between partners, these can lead to inefficiency and hinder progress.
Yeah, I can see that.
To mitigate this, it's often good to foster a collaborative environment right from the start. Maybe hold initial planning meetings in neutral settings, away from corporate HQs. This can help open communication, build trust, and foster a shared understanding. The key takeaway is that clear communication and shared governance are essential for successful JVs.
Now let's zoom in on foreign direct investment, FDI, specifically in Thailand. Our sources mention the Board of Investment, the BOI. What's its significance for foreign companies?
The BOI, the Board of Investment of Thailand, is the main government agency responsible for attracting and facilitating foreign direct investment. It's been around since 1960.
Okay.
It plays a crucial role in promoting investment in strategic sectors by offering incentives, providing regulatory guidance, and basically acting as the key contact point for foreign investors navigating the local scene. The key takeaway: the BOI is a crucial facilitator of FDI in Thailand.
And how does Thailand generally compare to other countries in the region, like ASEAN, in terms of ease of doing business for foreign companies looking to make direct investments?
Compared to some other ASEAN nations, Thailand is often seen as offering a relatively straightforward process for foreign companies setting up operations. There are regulations, of course, but the bureaucratic hurdles are generally considered manageable.
But there are some restrictions.
Yes, a notable one is land ownership. Foreign-owned companies typically can't own land in Thailand unless they get specific BOI promotion. They can, however, usually get long-term land leases.
Okay.
Beyond that, the BOI also provides valuable advice on taxes, labor laws, IP protection, and they ensure a degree of confidentiality for investors. The key takeaway is that while land ownership has restrictions, Thailand generally offers a relatively accessible FDI environment.
Are there any particular industries or types of businesses that are generally off limits for foreign direct investment in Thailand?
Yes, the alien business law designates certain categories that are either prohibited or restricted for foreigners. These often include things like wholesale and retail, domestic trade, some repair services, certain food prep businesses for the domestic market.
But manufacturing is mostly okay.
Yeah, it's important to note that the vast majority of manufacturing activities are generally permitted for foreign investors, with just a few specific exceptions related to national security, like certain firearms. The key takeaway is that while some sectors are restricted, most manufacturing is open to FDI.
It sounds like the BOI actively works to streamline things for investors they want to attract, offering a kind of fast track.
Indeed. The BOI offers this fast-track service to speed up crucial financial steps for foreign investors, like opening corporate bank accounts and repatriating profits back home. However, they usually advise investors to focus on their core business activities and caution against, say, speculating in the Thai stock market or unrelated ventures like hotels. Regarding tariffs, Thailand's system is largely aligned with ASEAN's Sepoptic scheme, which has significantly reduced tariffs within the region. Raw materials usually have low tariffs, and exemptions are often available for goods imported for export manufacturing or R&D. Thailand also actively participates in various ASEAN economic initiatives. The key takeaway is that Thailand offers investment incentives and participates in regional trade agreements to facilitate international business.
Okay, we've explored how companies get into global markets. Now, let's talk about what happens once they're there. How do they actually market and sell their products and services in these diverse international landscapes? Let's delve into crafting effective international marketing strategies.
Right, and a critical insight here is that international marketing is way more complex than just tweaking a domestic plan for a foreign audience. Our sources highlight this with a cautionary tale about someone named Taylor Smith trying to import and market a power painter to Thailand.
Ah, the power painter again. What went wrong with that venture? It sounds like a potentially useful product.
Several key things went wrong. Taylor Smith didn't adequately research the lower cost structures for R&D and manufacturing that existed in Thailand. Crucially, she underestimated the impact of currency exchange fluctuations between the Thai baht and the Japanese yen, where she likely sourced it.
Okay.
And perhaps most importantly, she failed to understand local market pricing dynamics. Why would Thai consumers pay a premium for a Western import when local alternatives or traditional methods were much cheaper in, the bustling Thai bazaars?
Good point.
This example really underscores a broader point. Price sensitivity and the competitive landscape can be vastly different internationally. Western goods aren't always seen as superior or worth a higher price everywhere. The key takeaway is that thorough market research, including cost analysis and local pricing norms, is absolutely essential for successful international marketing.
So international marketing is about much more than just translating ads and finding distributors then.
Precisely. Marketing internationally is a comprehensive systemic function. It covers not just ads and sales, but crucial elements like product adaptation, strategic pricing, efficient promotion, effective distribution channels, all working together to create and deliver value to the target customer in that specific foreign market.
Right.
While advertising and distribution are important tactics, the overarching strategic decisions about product positioning and especially pricing are fundamental. The key insight is that international marketing requires a holistic and integrated approach to the entire marketing mix.
How do businesses even begin to figure out the right price for their products in a new international market? Seems like a real balancing act.
It really is a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
The main goal is to find a price point that lets the company get a competitive return on investment while still being attractive to customers there.
Okay.
Initially, this often hinges on understanding price elasticity of demand, how sensitive are consumers to price changes, and analyzing the marginal revenue implications. Products with inelastic demand might allow more flexibility, but price is just one lever. Decisions about promotion, product features, distribution, they also significantly influence sales volume and ultimate success. The key insight is that international pricing strategy has to consider both cost factors and market dynamics.
Let's make this more concrete. Imagine our hypothetical power painter, PP company, is still keen on exporting to Thailand. What are some critical research areas they should focus on?
Okay, for power painter to have a shot in Thailand, they need thorough research across several key dimensions. This includes getting a deep understanding of Thailand's geography, its demographics, the current tools and painting practices used there, and the underlying cultural norms around home improvement.
Right.
Plus, they need to carefully analyze the uncontrollable factors in Thailand, the economic climate, political and legal regulations affecting imports and standards, the broader cultural environment influencing adoption of new tech. This comprehensive understanding is crucial for tailoring their product and marketing. The key takeaway: in-depth market research across multiple dimensions is the bedrock of any successful international marketing effort.
Who would Power Painter likely identify as their initial target customers in the Thai market? B2B first.
Initially, targeting the business-to-business B2B segment in Thailand would make strategic sense. This would likely include established wood paint producers like local branches of international brands, say Dulux, and companies providing professional painting services. These entities would also be their main competitors in that initial segment. The key insight is to start by targeting a specific, well-defined market segment.
But could PowerPainter also consider targeting individual consumers directly in Thailand eventually, the DIY market?
Yes, absolutely. There's a growing segment of consumers in Thailand interested in DIY home improvement who might be open to innovative tools. In this consumer segment, PowerPainter would need to identify and analyze existing competitors, like local manufacturers offering traditional applicators.
Okay.
It would be crucial to research these consumer segments, specifically understand their size, growth potential, motivations for DIY, and any potential reluctance towards something like a power painter. The key takeaway is to segment the consumer market and understand the specific needs of each segment.
What are some unique characteristics of Thailand as a market that PowerPainter should be particularly aware of?
Well, Thailand's location in Southeast Asia, its diverse culture, abundant resources, its role as a land bridge to other ASEAN nations. These are important context points.
Right.
Its business environment generally has moderate regulation. Thai is the main language, but English proficiency is growing, especially in business. The culture is often seen as welcoming to Westerners, and American-style free market values have some influence. Importantly, Thailand generally lacks strong regulatory barriers against competition and innovation in most consumer product categories. It's been increasingly open to foreign investment and trade. As a WTO member, its economy is dynamic and globally interconnected. The key takeaway is that understanding Thailand's specific economic, cultural, and regulatory nuances is crucial.
Our sources also mention Thailand's well-established automotive industry. How might that be relevant to a company like PowerPainter? Seems unrelated at first glance.
It might seem so, but Thailand has a significant motor vehicle parts industry, supplying major global manufacturers and exporting components. Interestingly, the standard practice for painting vehicles there often involves dipping the chassis, with touch-ups done manually with custom mixed paints.
Oh, okay.
This manual process can be time-consuming, costly, and getting a perfect color match can be tricky. PowerPainter could potentially offer a more efficient, cost-effective solution for these touch-ups. And maybe with smaller, specialized guns, even explore opportunities for full vehicle repainting. It highlights the importance of looking beyond traditional uses and finding niche opportunities. The key takeaway: identify adjacent market opportunities where your product offers a distinct advantage.
Let's circle back to the critical aspect of pricing. What are some key strategic considerations for PowerPainter when setting prices in Thailand?
Pricing strategy is fundamental, directly impacting financial performance. Often price is the only marketing variable that directly generates revenue, so getting it right is essential for profitability and growth internationally. But price in international marketing isn't just the sticker price. It includes contract terms, warranties, credit options, discounts, delivery, installation, after-sales service. All need careful consideration, factoring in exchange rates too. The key insight is that international pricing is a comprehensive strategic decision with significant financial implications.
What are the key internal and external factors that should influence PowerPainter's pricing policy in Thailand?
Several factors, both internal and external, will shape their strategy. Internal factors include the company's own costs, its strategic goals for market share and profit, its competitive positioning, and its policies on efficiency and desired returns. External factors include the competitive landscape in Thailand, consumer price sensitivity, prevailing economic conditions, inflation, currency fluctuations, relevant regulations and tariffs, and the perceived value of the power painter compared to alternatives. It's also worth noting that pricing norms can vary hugely between domestic markets, developing countries, and newly industrialized economies. Export pricing often reflects the company's experience and product differentiation. Inappropriate pricing can lead consumers to substitutes or make them think the product is low quality. The key takeaway: a robust international pricing strategy must carefully analyze both internal costs and external market conditions.
What are the two fundamental methods PowerPainter could use when setting its international prices in Thailand? Cost-based versus market-based.
Exactly. Those are the two primary approaches. Cost-based pricing involves calculating the total cost to produce and deliver the product to Thailand, then adding a predetermined markup for profit. It's relatively straightforward, but crucial to account for local cost variations, tariffs, transport, etc. Market-based pricing, on the other hand, focuses on the perceived value to target customers in Thailand and the pricing of direct competitors. The company then considers its own costs to find a price point that's both competitive and profitable within that Thai market context. The key takeaway? International pricing can be either internally driven by costs or externally driven by market conditions and competitor actions.
Now let's navigate into a more complex and often ethically charged area, the legal and ethical considerations in international business.
This is a truly critical dimension. And our sources use a thought-provoking example related to factory working conditions in Thailand to illustrate how easily misunderstandings can arise when Western ethical frameworks are applied without a nuanced grasp of local socioeconomic structures.
Can you elaborate on that specific example? What was the key point?
The example highlights how what might look like exploitative factory conditions by Western standards could, in some Thai contexts, actually represent a significant improvement in living standards and economic opportunity for people from impoverished rural areas.
Really?
Yeah. A key cultural difference is the role of the extended family as the primary social safety net in many Southeast Asian societies. Unlike the more individualistic welfare systems in the West, individual well-being is often deeply tied to the economic stability and social standing of the entire extended family.
I see.
So individual shame or needing external help can have huge repercussions for the whole family, reinforcing the strong cultural need to avoid dependence. The key insight is that ethical assessments in international business must be sensitive to local socioeconomic realities and cultural norms.
So a seemingly compassionate Western approach, like just shutting down a factory with perceived poor conditions, could actually backfire and harm the workers and their families.
Precisely. While well-intentioned from a Western view, that action could cut off a vital income source for many families, potentially pushing them into even worse situations and causing significant social disruption.
Wow. So what's a better approach?
A more culturally intelligent and ethically sound approach might involve corporations investing in strengthening those existing family-based social safety nets. For instance, providing benefits like life insurance policies that offer a financial cushion, rather than simply imposing Western labor standards without understanding the local context. It shows the need for a culturally sensitive ethical framework that avoids unintended harm. The key takeaway: ethical interventions require careful consideration of local consequences.
It sounds like a universal ethical code isn't always straightforward to apply across different cultural and economic contexts. One size doesn't fit all.
That's absolutely right. A one-size-fits-all ethical approach can often lead to negative outcomes. Our sources also briefly touch on the complex interplay between MNCs creating opportunities in developing countries and the state's response to poverty, which can sometimes lead to politically charged policies. It's important to recognize that many ethical issues in international business have been addressed, at least partly, through legal initiatives and conventions by international organizations. The key insight: navigating international ethics requires understanding both formal legal frameworks and informal cultural norms.
What about Thailand specifically? What are some key legal considerations for international businesses operating there?
As part of the global trading system, Thailand adheres to various international trade agreements, outlining its obligations in areas like IP rights and trade practices. Domestically, Thailand has its own trade laws, covering things like access to international payment systems, rules for investment and trade promotion, import-export taxation and regulation, and obligations related to regional integration like ASEAN. The key takeaway: operating in Thailand requires compliance with both international agreements and domestic laws.
And what about legal mechanisms for protecting foreign investors in Thailand? Are there safeguards?
Yes, to ensure a level playing field and protect against abuses, Thai law includes provisions for monitoring foreign invested companies. This includes requirements for companies to publish certain info and giving shareholders, foreign and domestic, the right to inspect company share registers. These aim for transparency and accountability.
Okay.
Plus, there are ongoing legal and regulatory compliance matters. All companies must adhere to reporting, disclosure, lender restrictions, regulatory discharges, competition law, administrative costs. The key takeaway: Thailand has legal mechanisms for investor protection and ongoing regulatory compliance.
Our sources also mention the Central Bank of Thailand's role in currency exchange. Why is that important for international businesses?
The Central Bank of Thailand, under the Ministry of Finance, plays the main role in controlling and regulating currency exchange involving the Thai baht and foreign currencies. This oversight is crucial for maintaining the baht's stability and managing international payment flows.
Right.
While the government controls foreign exchange to a degree, the methods for settling international trade payments in baht have become quite diverse and efficient account exchanges between banks, note exchanges, local bank drafts.
Yeah.
The key takeaway: Understanding and complying with Thailand's currency exchange regulations is essential for international financial transactions.
Shifting back to the broader ethical landscape, it sounds like the rapidly changing global environment is forcing businesses to rethink their ethical frameworks constantly.
Absolutely. The dramatic shifts we're seeing, tech advancements, increasing interconnectedness, evolving social norms, create this pressing need for new, more comprehensive international business management frameworks that explicitly address ethics.
So where do those insights come from?
It requires drawing insights from various disciplines, philosophy, sociology, political science, to get fresh perspectives and develop more holistic approaches to complex global ethical dilemmas. Globalization itself is dynamic, with emerging trends constantly reshaping the ethical landscape at macro, global, meso, organizational, and micro-individual levels. The key insight: the evolving global context demands continuous reevaluation of ethical principles in international business.
So how can businesses even begin to grapple with these complex ethical forces? It seems overwhelming.
Well, our sources introduce three helpful theoretical lenses: aggregating frameworks, looking at overall impact; adapting frameworks, focusing on adjusting to local norms; and addressing frameworks, emphasizing proactively tackling challenges. Additionally, they propose 5 key actors whose behaviors significantly influence the ethical terrain: businesses themselves, governments, academics, civil society media, and global governance bodies. It's important to see these not as managerial how-to guides, but as frameworks for understanding the nature and influence of these key actors and their potential local implications. The key takeaway: a multifaceted approach is needed to analyze the ethical dimensions of global economic activity.
All right, we've navigated the legal and ethical terrain. Now let's talk about the financial backbone of international operations, managing finances across borders.
Right. Financial management internationally basically involves handling all the standard finance functions: investment decisions, financing, capital markets, exchange rates, compliance, but with the added complexity of operating across multiple borders and in diverse financial environments. The critical insight: the principles are the same, but the application gets way more intricate internationally.
What are the major environmental factors that make international financial management so much more challenging than domestic finance?
There are 5 primary categories of environmental differences that really impact things: economic environments, inflation, stability; political environments, regulation, risk; taxation environments, varying laws, treaties; cultural environments, influencing financial norms; and industrial environments, different structures, competition.
Okay.
Variations within each of these can significantly affect the company's financial decisions and performance. For instance, differences in credit risks, security issuance costs, interest rate risk. They all impact a multinational's international cost of capital. Generally, as a country's financial markets get more sophisticated, the expected cost of capital tends to be lower. The key takeaway: diverse national environments create unique financial challenges and opportunities.
It sounds like managing financial risks becomes considerably more complex when you're operating in multiple countries. Hedging must be key.
Absolutely. Multinationals face off-balance sheet exposures like translational risk, the impact of exchange rates on reported financials, and market risk, potential losses from adverse market movements. These necessitate sophisticated risk management and hedging strategies. Plus, consolidating results from subsidiaries using different accounting practices adds another layer of complexity.
Right.
And when dealing with international equity markets, you have to consider liquidity, pricing, varying accounting standards across different exchanges. Even just interpreting financial info in foreign exchange markets can be complex. The key takeaway: international financial management requires advanced risk assessment and management techniques.
What about a company's ability to access capital in international markets? Are there big differences compared to domestic markets?
Yes, the ease of access and cost of capital in international debt and equity markets can vary considerably for international versus purely domestic firms. Factors like global reputation, credit ratings in different markets, regulatory restrictions on foreign access, they all play a role. When evaluating investing in international securities or derivatives, managers need to assess asset quality, currency movements, sponsorship, market segmentation, transaction costs. And remember, each of those 5 environmental categories has numerous subcategories, adding to the complexity compared to domestic finance. The key takeaway: international capital markets offer both opportunities and challenges for raising and investing funds.
Our sources also highlight the fundamental importance of foreign exchange markets. Why are these markets so critical? Seems obvious, but maybe break it down.
Well, they're absolutely essential because different countries use different currencies, each with its own purchasing power. These markets are the mechanism that facilitates international trade and investment by letting businesses and individuals convert one currency to another.
Right.
Without efficient foreign exchange markets, the seamless flow of goods, services, capital across borders would be severely hampered. They also help governments manage currency values and protect against excessive speculation, inflation, devaluation. The key insight: foreign exchange markets are the lifeblood of international commerce.
How do these foreign exchange markets actually operate? What are the different types? Spot, forward.
Exactly. They involve creating and trading negotiable currency instruments. Broadly, you classify them by function and location. By function, you have spot markets, immediate exchange, and forward markets, future exchange at a preset rate.
Okay.
By location, they're often called fiduciary markets, no central physical location, just a network of financial institutions worldwide. It's important to understand that currency can't stay outside its home country indefinitely, and purchasing power differences can cause exchange rate changes or government intervention. These markets meet the needs of importers-exporters needing foreign currency and banks facing temporary shortages, enhancing the world market. Exchange rate volatility also significantly impacts trade prices. With the key takeaway: foreign exchange markets facilitate international transactions and are subject to various factors influencing currency values.
Another crucial aspect mentioned is international financial reporting. Why is understanding the differences so important for global companies?
Understanding the nuances and differences between financial reporting practices, say, in Thailand versus the US or Europe, is absolutely paramount for anyone in international finance. The main goals are to identify these variations in accounting standards and disclosure, evaluate the pros and cons of harmonization efforts, and recognize potential obstacles to that harmonization. The key insight: differing accounting practices create challenges for comparability and transparency in international finance.
Are there different models that explain why financial reporting practices vary so much across countries? Is it just random?
No, not random. Various models of international accounting diversity exist. They generally suggest that the differences we see often stem from fundamental differences in how accounting information is supplied and used, which are influenced by national circumstances, legal traditions, economic systems, culture, capital market sophistication.
Makes sense.
However, the forces of globalization are increasingly pushing towards harmonization of national accounting standards, especially financial reporting and disclosure. The key takeaway: national circumstances shape accounting practices, but globalization is pushing for greater consistency.
So we're seeing a definite move towards more standardized global accounting practices. Is it happening fast?
National financial reporting has changed significantly over time, and the increasing volume of cross-border financial flows makes harmonization more pressing than ever. Greater consistency is essential for transparency and comparability for investors, creditors, everyone. To achieve this, you need in-depth exams of the impact of reports under different standards, understanding audit opinions, analyzing changes in principles, identifying red flags where accounting practice might not align with business operations. There's also growing emphasis on monitoring comparable financial info pan-nationally, especially for imported resources, and specifying info related to external governance regimes affecting creditors, submitting practices to shareholder protection departments. It's all part of it. The key takeaway: harmonization of financial reporting is a crucial step towards greater transparency and trust in global business.
We've covered the potential rewards, but let's not shy away from the fact that international business also comes with a unique set of risks. What are the key areas companies need to be aware of when venturing globally?
You're absolutely right. Risk management is critical for any company operating internationally because there's always the potential for capital loss from various country-specific risks, both anticipated ones and those that pop up unexpectedly. The key insight: international business inherently involves higher risk levels than domestic operations.
What are the fundamental components of a robust risk management program for a global business? What should it cover?
A comprehensive program typically includes several key parts: thorough risk evaluation, identifying and assessing potential risks. Risk avoidance strategies may be choosing not to enter certain high-risk markets, asset protection measures safeguarding investments and resources, and establish protest mechanisms, procedures for addressing unfair treatment or disputes.
Okay.
It's also essential to be aware of different country approaches to free trade protectionism varies, and the strength of IP protection. Plus, complex global supply chains introduce significant supply chain risk vulnerability to natural disasters, political events. And uncertainties from changes in laws, business practices, market conditions all add to the risk landscape. A big one is political risk, including the possibility of expropriation. The key takeaway: a multifaceted approach is needed to manage the diverse risks of international business.
How do businesses even begin to get a handle on assessing and quantifying these diverse international risks? Seems daunting.
The process of country risk analysis is specifically designed for that, measuring the overall risk level of doing business in a particular foreign country. International business risks can be broadly categorized into three main types.
Okay, what are they?
Commercial risks related to day-to-day operations like demand fluctuations, credit receivables, currency volatility, partner bankruptcy. Political risks stemming from government actions or instability like discrimination, policy changes, nationalization, tariffs, embargoes, wars. And speculative risks, non-diversifiable risks affecting asset values like broad currency depreciation or major market shifts. The key takeaway: international risks can be systematically categorized and analyzed.
It sounds like some risks are more controllable than others. Can a company truly avoid all of them? Or is it more about management?
No, it's unrealistic to think you can entirely avoid all risks. But a company can strive for a budgetary equilibrium in its risk exposure, basically, offsetting potential risks with income forecasts. The key is managing risks on a probability basis, considering worst-case scenarios, establishing clear exit points if needed. Once you have a reasonable estimate of probabilities and potential financial impact, you can make informed decisions about how much insurance coverage to get. The key takeaway: risk management is about mitigation and preparedness, not complete avoidance.
Let's delve a bit deeper into those risk categories. Can you give us some more specific examples within commercial and political economic risks, just to make it more concrete?
Certainly. Within commercial risks, you might see non-payment from international customers, unexpected price hikes for imported materials, maybe a lack of understanding of local market dynamics, dealing with unreliable local agents, theft of IP or confidential info, disputes from poorly written contracts, differences in standard business practices, difficulty accessing financing abroad, shipment delays, partner bankruptcy. On the political and economic front, risks can be more varied. Hostile actions by local political forces, abrupt policy changes like nationalization, restrictive import-export controls, tax hikes, wars, revolutions, and adverse economic changes from foreign government policies, currency devaluations, high inflation, politically driven shifts in consumer preferences, non-cash transaction requirements, actions hindering capital flow. The key takeaway: the spectrum of international business risks is broad and diverse.
Political risks sound particularly challenging because they can be so unpredictable and outside a company's direct control.
They certainly can be. Commercial risks are often more linked to specific transactions, but political risks can be more volatile and have broader impacts. You can't eliminate political risk, but companies can conduct thorough assessments to understand a country's relative stability. Economic risks are often a direct consequence of foreign government policy and can significantly hit profitability. The key takeaway: political and economic risks require careful monitoring and proactive mitigation strategies.
So what are some concrete strategies companies can actually implement to mitigate these various risks? What tools are in the toolbox?
Several key strategies can be used, and the increasing scrutiny from stringent legal frameworks worldwide really pressures businesses to get good at this.
Right, so what practical steps can they take?
Firstly, documentation is paramount. Clear, comprehensive, legally sound contracts are vital. As relationships get stronger, documentation rigor should increase. Don't overlook penalties from informal communications. Documentation can be a pain point, especially for transaction-focused firms, so standardizing processes automated or a third party can cut overhead and misunderstandings. Also, clearly advise local agents on customer treatment and payment terms and build reliable local relationships.
Okay, documentation first. What else?
Secondly, rated priced contracts can be useful, especially where contractors face increased risks like longer notice periods. Ideally, for fixed-cost orders, you'd get full payment with risk acceptance, though that's not always common in less sophisticated markets. Always measure risks relative to your position when contracting, and internal authorities need to maintain responsibility after implementation.
Got it. Graded pricing. That's the third principle.
Thirdly, the fundamental principle: do not lose more money than you stand to gain. This means setting independent sales terms and prices for each deal to hedge against client, parts, and competition risks. Lowering parts costs is fine, but lowering selling prices needs careful thought about overall costs, maybe introducing a better product or initial price penetration. Consider imposing and defending premiums for similar deals or superior products to cover initial losses and convey value-making payment more likely. And finally, crucial, ascertain your total potential losses, even if unlikely, and have full documentation to back everything up.
Now let's move on to the human element of global business. Managing human resources in an international context. HR must get complicated fast.
It really does. Global Human Resource Management, or HRM, covers all the aspects, issues, practices, and policies that just become significantly more complex when an organization operates across borders. The key insight: managing people globally needs a different lens than domestic HRM.
Can you give us a classic example of a specifically global aspect of HRM?
A classic example is the whole process of expatriation and repatriation, sending employees from the parent company to work abroad and then bringing them back home.
Right, the expats.
Exactly. This involves a whole host of unique challenges: visas, work permits, cultural adjustment, compensation packages dealing with cost of living differences. It's complex.
And what about specific HR practices that might differ significantly in a global context, like payroll?
Consider recruitment. Hiring for a subsidiary in Thailand means navigating local labor laws, cultural work ethic norms, different preferred job ad channels compared to, say, the US, or payroll for expats in Hong Kong, complex tax rules, currency conversions that a purely domestic Thai firm wouldn't face. The key insight: HR practices must be adapted to local legal and cultural contexts.
So it's not just about having HR departments in different locations operating independently. There needs to be coordination.
Not at all. Effective global HRM needs high coordination and strategic alignment across countries. This often means deciding which HR functions are centralized, maybe globally or regionally, and which are localized. For instance, a company might have a regional payroll center in Singapore handling Southeast Asia, including Thailand, to get economies of scale and ensure compliance. This shows the complexities of transferring and managing HR functions internationally needs careful planning, clear communication, knowledge transfer. The specific functions usually considered globally are recruitment, training, performance evaluation, and payroll. But the scope goes way beyond just expats. The key insight: global HRM requires strategic coordination and adaptation of HR functions.
Let's start by focusing on recruitment and selection in a global context. What are the key considerations there? Finding the right people anywhere is hard enough.
Recruitment essentially is getting the right number of qualified people for the right jobs at the right time, optimizing human capital use. Globally, this gets complex due to diverse labor markets, varying skill levels, different cultural job-seeking norms.
Right.
It's a critical part of manpower planning, determining future workforce needs, identifying sources for candidates after job evaluation and definition. A crucial aspect globally is carefully considering where and how to seek employees, the recruitment sources and methods effective in different contexts. Recruitment involves soliciting applications, followed by selection. Selection is the systematic process of creating rules to choose the best applicants by comparing qualifications to job duties. The key insight: global recruitment and selection require understanding and adapting to diverse labor markets and candidate pools.
So recruitment is about casting a wide net, getting people interested, and selection is the careful process of picking the best fit from that pool.
Exactly. Recruitment is searching and making candidates fit for selection by applying. Selection is rigorously evaluating and picking the best qualified. Recruitment is vital because organizational goals are ultimately achieved through employees. The key insight: effective recruitment is fundamental to building a high-performing global workforce.
What about training and development in a global organization? How does that differ from a purely domestic company? Seems even more critical.
Investing in comprehensive training and development is even more critical globally. You need to ensure employees across different locations have the necessary skills and knowledge to perform effectively and grow within the company. Learning programs should align with performance targets set by managers and use fresh, innovative methods that are culturally appropriate and engaging for a diverse workforce. Robust training programs impart job knowledge, but also make employees feel valued. Mentoring, job shadowing can provide support and transfer best practices across locations. Specialized training on tools, processes, policies relevant to large groups is also essential for consistency. While it requires significant time and resources, these investments are highly beneficial. Better performance, engagement, retention. The key insight: Global training and development must be strategic, culturally sensitive, and focused on continuous improvement.
Why is a strong emphasis on training and development so important for retaining employees in a global company where they might have more diverse career opportunities?
Lack of adequate training and development is a major reason people leave any organization. And it's especially true globally, where employees might see wider options. Employees are valuable assets. Investing in their T&D is crucial not just for their current job, but for future advancement within the company.
Right.
Employees who feel they aren't getting growth opportunities are more likely to look elsewhere.
Okay.
So HR in global firms must prioritize lasting, impactful training programs. This is vital after investing heavily in hiring. A positive onboarding plus ongoing development boosts retention significantly. Thorough in-house training communicates policies, builds decision skills, sets expectations. Development programs should focus on the employee, enhancing their understanding of the organization, teaching leadership methods for efficient teamwork across diverse teams. Regularly updating both training and development prevents stagnation. Even changing roles can increase commitment. Ultimately, organizations valuing employees through consistent investment in T&D see lower turnover, saving recruitment costs, and fostering stable, positive teams, which helps achieve goals. The key insight: investing in employee growth is a key driver of retention and long-term success globally.
Now let's shift gears and talk about the often complex flow of goods and information across borders. Managing the international supply chain, SCM must be a huge challenge globally.
It takes on a whole new level of complexity and strategic importance internationally. It's not just managing flows within one country, you need a global perspective. The key insight: international SCM is a critical driver of efficiency and competitive advantage globally.
How would you define supply chain management in this international context? What does it really involve?
International SCM is the design, planning, execution, control, and monitoring of supply chain activities with a global perspective. The goal is creating net value, building competitive infrastructure, leveraging worldwide logistics, synchronizing supply with demand, and measuring performance globally.
Okay.
It covers coordinating all supply activities within and across borders for chains spanning multiple nations. Everything from sourcing raw materials internationally, manufacturing in different places, managing international transport and logistics, warehousing in various countries, processing orders across borders. Globalization means more intricate, dispersed chains, needing tighter coordination among decision-makers in different countries with varying rules and cultures. The key insight: international SCM requires a coordinated global approach to managing goods and information flow.
So it's about managing this vast network of interconnected activities and partners spread across the globe. Sounds incredibly complex.
Precisely. Effective international SCM involves coordinating tons of activities and numerous parties: suppliers, manufacturers, logistics providers, distributors, and users. The overarching goals: minimize costs, optimize efficiency, expedite delivery across borders.
Right.
The sheer complexity means a growing need for professionals with specialized skills. SCM internationally also involves strategic decisions about how to deliver service and meet demand in different markets, choices about transport modes, logistics infrastructure, overall operations design. It's integral to operational excellence, customer satisfaction, balancing supply-demand, coordination, performance measurement, and creativity within the global network. Decisions happen at all levels, spanning strategic, tactical, operational categories, involving complex networks of customers, suppliers, internal functions. The key insight: international SCM is a multifaceted function crucial for global business success.
As more companies globalize seeking profit, how are their supply chains typically evolving to support this expansion? Do they just stretch the old ones?
As companies look globally for growth, their traditional, often domestic supply chains need significant re-engineering. Stretching often doesn't work.
Right.
Research has looked into implementing global supply chain strategies, especially in high-tech firms. A key finding is that for many, global expansion is relatively new, so the specific issues and complexities aren't always well defined. This has led to efforts to develop frameworks and models for better decision-making in designing and implementing global supply chain strategies, aiming to improve the process of performance. The key insight: global expansion necessitates a strategic reevaluation and adaptation of existing supply chain models.
It sounds like these global supply chain decisions can be quite intricate and long-term, maybe more so than purely domestic choices, a lot more variable.
That's absolutely correct. Global supply chain strategy decisions are often highly complex, have long-term impacts, and need to consider a wider range of variables and uncertainties compared to simpler, localized choices.
So how do companies manage that complexity?
Despite the complexity, there are effective methods. Things like clearly defining the key questions, breaking down problems into manageable parts, fostering information sharing across silos, addressing messy issues structurally, establishing frameworks for negotiation with international partners. One example from our sources is a framework developed within a large firm to capture, guide, and assess global supply chain strategies. The zonation process, segmenting the global market, was identified as a crucial first step in global expansion. Research also highlights other common challenges for high-tech firms expanding internationally. These frameworks are relevant not just for one firm, but more broadly for different strategies and company types. The key insight: despite complexity, structured frameworks can aid effective global supply chain decision-making.
What role does information technology play in managing these increasingly complex global supply chains? It must be huge.
IT plays a pivotal, indispensable role. Effective information management and streamlined communication across dispersed domains are essential for coordination and visibility in global networks.
For like ERP systems.
Exactly. Things like ERP systems, supply chain management software, communication tools, they provide the infrastructure for real-time data sharing, demand forecasting, inventory management, logistics tracking across the entire global chain. These techs enable better decisions, faster responses to disruptions, and optimization of efficiency and resilience.
Right.
Plus, advanced data analytics and AI offer new opportunities for deeper insights and continuous improvement. Our sources also mention using thought questions for reflection on decisions, systems, culture, highlighting the human element alongside tech. The key insight: IT is a critical enabler for managing complexity and optimizing performance in global supply chains.
It sounds like for companies to thrive today, they need a really firm handle on their supply chains. It's not just a background function anymore.
Absolutely. Companies need to characterize their SEM approach by balancing low cost, high quality, and rapid responsiveness to survive and thrive globally. SEM is stage-by-stage planning, coordination, control of all processes, from raw materials to consumer.
And logistics is key within that.
The role of logistics, the quality and speed of distribution, is crucial in a globalized world of countless corporate networks. Logistics saves time and cost by strategically planning, constructing, controlling the movement and form of goods to meet user needs. The supply chain coordinates the whole business enterprise with its complex, dynamic external environment.
Right.
The objective of logistics: right product, amount, time, condition, place, cost for users. Logistics saves costs through centralization, outsourcing, offshoring for local optimization. The focus is saving material and time. Distribution methods must handle math flow, location, matching with minimal discrepancies.
Sounds fit.
Concepts like minimum material supply circulation, point-to-point methods over minimum distances are key. Complex networks might need monomer structure, conventional distribution adapting to final methods, like pyramid planning for cities. Concentrated distribution avoids waste from centralization, using preemptive analysis of minor requirements and centralized delivery based on data mining. For example, Sydney might use big data analysis of capture service patterns, and a specific bus network on regional roads could save time cost. The key idea: minimize distances, anticipate switch locations, use full-scale automatic international containers for fast export-import. The key insight: efficient international logistics and distribution are vital for global competitiveness.
Let's now turn our attention to how technology, specifically the internet, has fundamentally reshaped the global business landscape. It feels like it's touched almost everything.
The internet has truly brought about a profound transformation in our lives over the past couple of decades. How we get news, shop, travel, pay bills, manage investments. It's all changed. Search engines are vital tools now. The key insight: the internet is fundamental infrastructure for personal and business life.
And for businesses, it's unlocked a whole new world of opportunities, right? Created new industries, generated massive wealth.
Absolutely. Tremendous business opportunities, entirely new industries, significant economic value created. While business to consumer, B2C, e-commerce is still evolving, understanding consumer habits and attitudes towards online interactions is crucial for profiting from the internet economy.
What are the challenges, though?
Well, one ongoing challenge for potential online shoppers is just keeping up with the sheer number of new web-based businesses, internet shops, constantly emerging. The key insight: the internet dramatically lowered barriers to entry and created new business models.
So how can businesses effectively navigate this dynamic online landscape and connect with potential customers? Just having a website isn't enough.
No, the key is for marketers to provide relevant, timely information early in the customer's decision process. This helps satisfy needs and maybe even shape online shopping habits. Potential shoppers need to become familiar and comfortable with online stores and virtual interactions.
Familiarity matters.
Yeah, there's a strong link between a site's existence and familiarity. Many potential customers are simply unaware products are sold online. So marketers must actively promote their internet offerings through various media to drive traffic and build awareness. It's like traditional stores needing promotion. Internet stores need enough promotion and advertising to survive. The key insight: online presence isn't enough. Active promotion and building familiarity are essential for e-commerce success.
Our sources touch on an initial comparison between American and Thai consumers' online experiences. What were some key findings or implications for e-commerce there?
That initial comparison likely focused on similarities and differences in how U.S. and Thai consumers interact with the web preferences, purchase decision factors. By examining these nuances, businesses can gain insights for tailoring e-commerce strategies to resonate better in each distinct cultural and economic context. The key takeaway: understanding local consumer behavior is crucial for effective international e-commerce.
Beyond just e-commerce, how else has the increasing development of technology impacted the broader business landscape? Communications tech, satellites.
The rapid tech advancements, especially in telecommunications and satellites, have had a massive, pervasive influence on almost every aspect of business. Service quality and customer satisfaction are paramount differentiators now.
Right.
Satisfaction depends not just on the good services, but the whole purchase-sale process. Marketing is vital for understanding and satisfying customer needs. Traditional businesses have to transform due to e-business spread. Failure to adapt means being left behind, uncompetitive.
So IT is core to competition.
Information technology is a crucial driver of business competition. E-facilities profoundly impact operations. It's essential for business management students to grasp the local global influence of communication IT on business, economy, culture, education. The key insight: technology is a fundamental driver of business transformation and competitive advantage.
It sounds like the internet has really facilitated a more interconnected, information-rich global society than ever before.
Absolutely. There's a significant, undeniable link between communication IT advancements and the unprecedented spread of information, local, regional, global. The internet is a prime example, fundamentally joining the global society.
Compared to before the internet.
Right. Before, communication was mainly email, phones, fax, TV, radio. The internet brought far more sophisticated interactive services: electronic shopping, virtual meetings, online banking. E-business itself is broadly defined as all business transactions using IT over networks like the internet. The key insight: the internet has revolutionized communication and commerce on a global scale.
Now, let's shift gears and look at some real-world examples. Learn from successes, but also from setbacks. Our sources mention examining both in international business.
Yes, there's a reference to a research project focusing on exporting and marketing the Power Painter to Thailand as a detailed case study.
Ah, the Power Painter saga continues.
Right. The research process involved analyzing why Thailand Power Painter, profiling Thailand's environment, examining uncontrollable factors, economy, politics, legal, and assessing the controllable marketing mix: product, competition, price, distribution, promotion. The final step was feasibility analysis: revenues, costs, ROI. The key insight: case studies provide valuable real-world learning in international business.
The Power Painter itself, what were its key features? Why try to market it internationally?
It was described as a perfected consumer wall paint sprayer, 2,850 psi electric airless, good for thin latex paints, stains, sealers. A key advantage mentioned was usability in direct sunlight without needing brushing after. The research also likely noted the prevalence of flammable organic solvents in traditional paints and the associated risks during spraying, suggesting a market opportunity for a potentially safer, maybe water-based, sprayer. The key insight: identifying a product's unique features and potential advantages in a foreign market is crucial for international marketing.
Our sources also delve into analyzing multinational corporations, MNCs. What were some significant insights from that analysis regarding international business management?
Well, international business management, IBM, as a field, focuses on organizing, planning, maintaining, controlling commerce in MNCs. International trade goes back thousands of years, with Adam Smith seen as a founder of trade theory economics as wealth creation via resource acquisition for domestic use and export. Over the last 50 years, U.S. economists' views broadened to include non-input factors like knowledge, market spectrum, business association, legitimate monopoly enabling corporations to manage properties and control markets. Managing MNCs is a major research field, using theoretical empirical views, macro-micro analyses.
And the research meant?
Some research looked into the sense-making, sense-giving processes of chief communication officers, CCOs, in different MNCs, often focusing on the large service sector. Our sources mentioned interviews with 10 MNC execs in Thailand, board VP level diverse CCO roles.
What theories did they use?
Likely used intertextuality, structuration, social network theories, plus qualitative analysis to link competitive practices to global local phenomena across levels and timeframes. A key finding might be that service-based MNCs are more proactive in relaying perceived issues globally, locally, and collaborating with external entities due to service perishability. Professional diversification, regulations, networks foster practices with competing threats, opportunities. In contrast, localized practices might show more privacy, characterization, corroboration, competing specificity due to lower belief and higher perceived detriment. The key insight. Managing and understanding communication within MNCs and diverse international environments is complex and evolving.
It's a good reminder that even the biggest, most successful MNCs aren't immune to failure. Our sources point to some notable examples of international business setbacks, right?
Indeed. Despite resources and reach, MNCs aren't invulnerable. Sources likely cite examples like international toy recalls, toxicity, airline bankruptcies, finance, social network stock falls, regulation, photography giants declining, digital disruption. These remind us success isn't guaranteed. Even established players face challenges and failure if not adaptable. The key insight. Continuous adaptation and vigilance are essential for long-term survival internationally.
What key international business lessons can we extract from analyzing these failures? What can companies learn?
Several crucial lessons emerge. First, time sensitivity. Balance immediate investments with long-term planning. Avoid abandoning mature businesses prematurely, but also exit unmarketable ones decisively. Second, understand competition is dynamic. No invariant defensive position exists. Avoid complacency. Constantly adapt. Maybe even use sunset clauses for aging businesses. Third, exercise careful consideration for new ventures. Growth ventures often have volatile margins. Rigorously benchmark potential margins and value creation before committing big resources. Finally, with acquisitions, thorough due diligence is critical. Understand the target business, industry, management. Critically examine assumptions and performance before acquiring to avoid share price penalties. The key takeaway. Learning from past failures, yours and others, is essential for navigating international business complexity and mitigating future risks.
Finally, let's turn our gaze towards the horizon. What are some key trends and developments likely to shape the future of global commerce? Where are things headed?
The future promises to be increasingly dynamic and interconnected. We can anticipate investment evolving beyond national borders even more freely, chasing opportunities and returns. We're already seeing rapid shifts to new work paradigms, flexibility, virtual workplaces, cross-time zone teams.
Yeah, definitely seeing that.
E-commerce will continue its dramatic transition from experimental tool to an integral part of daily life, likely surpassing traditional telecom in economic impact. National market boundaries will probably diminish further, leading to more spot markets and huge growth opportunities for adaptable companies. Faster decision-making, fueled by tech, will be the norm. We'll also likely see continued worldwide expansion of small and mid-sized firms with specialized expertise, making globalization inevitable for businesses of all sizes. The key insight. The future of global commerce will be characterized by greater interconnectedness, technological disruption, and increased competition.
It sounds like a solid understanding of international business principles will be even more crucial for future business leaders then. Essential, really.
Absolutely. We're already seeing more emphasis on international business in university education. It's likely that being an effective international business manager will become a standard expectation for many BBA graduates.
And trade policy.
In the medium term, expect continued, maybe uneven, liberalization and free trade, encouraging international trade investment. But for nations to stay competitive, further internal liberalization combined with mitigating adverse impacts will be key, alongside addressing discrimination from other countries. Cooperation with all stakeholders is vital for cross-border competitiveness. Major external influences like MNC strategies and FDI will have increasingly impactful local effects. Business education will keep emphasizing the global environment. Business activities need greater awareness of the international environment, internal and external. This likely involves reviewing and transforming industry agriculture-based economies into more IT-based businesses. The key insight. A global mindset and strong grasp of international dynamics are essential for future business success.
What about shifting economic power dynamics? Are certain regions or emerging markets poised to play an even bigger role? The rise of Asia?
The global economy is undeniably experiencing a significant eastward shift. We're seeing substantial manufacturing services growth across Asia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Philippines, Pakistan, India. West Asia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Iran, UAE, presents new opportunities and challenges. Russia's emergence as an energy superpower continues to shape dynamics.
And China and India.
Perhaps most significantly, the dramatic integration of India and China into the world economy, plus rapid FDI growth in these emerging markets, is reshaping the map. These are often called the companies of the 21st century, with robust growth expected, fueled by urbanization, higher savings investment, favorable demographics.
So huge consumer markets are developing.
Tremendous increase in disposable income. Emergence of a sizable consumer base with diverse lifestyles, mentalities, tastes. This should drive accelerated growth in various industries. We can also expect a shift towards different standards quality expectations in goods services consumption there. This highlights the urgent need for businesses entering these regions to do in-depth research. Preferences from developed countries may not apply. Prospects are huge for serving these markets proactively. The key insights: emerging markets, especially in Asia, will be major drivers of future global economic growth.
Our sources conclude with a thought-provoking reflection, connecting the current global situation to Dickens' The Best of Times, the Worst of Times. Can you elaborate on that in the discussion of sustainability?
Yes, the current global landscape does embody that duality. Unprecedented opportunities for growth, innovation, collaboration, but also significant challenges: inequality, environmental degradation, potential for exploitation. This brings us to the ubiquitous concept of sustainability. Understanding basic sustainability concepts provides a common language for addressing crises and promoting a sustainable future. There's growing recognition that sustainability isn't just ethical, but key to long-term business success. Some companies proactively design socially equitable, planet-protecting product services. Others react to accusations of unsustainable practices.
So there's debate around CSR and sustainability.
A wide debate, yes. Traditionally, business aimed primarily at profit, needing increased market size demand. Contrast this with a double, triple bottom line concept, including environmental social issues. However, societal responsibilities are often still secondary to profitability, or a long-term view not applicable to struggling firms. Ultimately, profit-driven justifications aren't truly CSR or sustainability, but maybe end-based moral reasoning within modern economic behavior. The key insight: the future of global commerce must increasingly integrate sustainability and ethical responsibility.
Well, that concludes our incredibly comprehensive deep dive into the multifaceted world of international business management. We certainly covered a vast amount of territory today.
Indeed, we have. We've explored everything from, globalization drivers and cultural understanding, to trade theories, market entry strategies, international marketing, legal ethical issues, finance, risk, global HR, supply chains, the digital revolution, case studies, and future trends.
Phew. It's abundantly clear that the rapidly evolving global business landscape demands a strong, adaptable understanding of these international dynamics for anyone hoping to succeed today. We sincerely hope this in-depth overview has given you, our listener, valuable insights, maybe some surprising facts, a shortcut to being well-informed on this complex, vital subject.
And on that note, I leave you with this thought. As global businesses increasingly operate in diverse emerging markets, characterized by both huge opportunities and potential vulnerabilities, what are the core responsibilities these businesses bear towards local communities, environments? How can they navigate this best of times, worst of times duality, maximizing opportunity while proactively mitigating exploitation and contributing to sustainable, equitable development? It's something to reflect on the profound interconnectedness of business, ethics, and our shared global future.